ISO? Exposure?
We interrupt this regularly scheduled program. Do you wake up feeling overexposed? Do you suffer from sensitivity to light, causing ISO migraines?
No, it's too bright. I'm too sensitive to the light. Please shut the shutters.
Do you suffer from shutter speed constant blinking? Well, I have the solution for you. Drink the both sides of the camera Kool-Aid and it will magically disappear. All you gotta do is click on the subscribe button.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Monique Johnson here from bothsidesofthecamera.com, and we are going to tackle the major fear, the major mumbo jumbo, it sounds like a different kind of language, for aperture, ISO, exposure, and shutter speed. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through the basics of what you call the exposure triangle. Did I do that? So exposure triangle, and that comprises of aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. And we're going to cover real quick what those three things are, so that by the end of this video you're going to be an expert and you're going to actually say, hey, I know exactly what you're talking about when you hear aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. So first we're going to tackle with the hardest, and that is aperture. Aperture is simply the amount of light that you allow into the lens. So you can open up your lens very wide like this to allow a lot of light to come in, or you can really close it like this and there's only a little bit of light. So that's basically when someone's talking about aperture, it's how much light you're allowing into the lens. Aperture is measured by what you call f-stop. The range of aperture is 1.2 to 2.2. However, even though you see 1.2, 2.2, think of it as reverse. Don't ask me why, but yes, whoever created the f-stop formula has actually made it reverse. Therefore, because you would think from 1.2, 2.2, 1.2 means small amount of light, 2.2 means a lot of light that you allow in. Actually, it is the reverse. So therefore, 2.2 means the lens is closed all the way down like this. And 1.2 means all the light it's wide open and it allows as much light as possible into the lens. So the next thing I want to cover real quick with aperture is depth of field. Depth of field is basically what I call the blurry background videos. Those really high quality videos where it's really focused on you or on an object and the background is all blurry. And if you want to get fancy with it, it's really the distance between the nearest and the farthest object in a scene. So there are two types of depth of fields. One is shallow depth of field, which is what I just explained to you, is where you have one main object or someone in focus and your background is blurry and out of focus. And then what you call deep depth of field, in which pretty much everything is in focus. I want to cover with you the depth of field and how you can control that with your aperture. Now in general, I just want to let you know, when you want to deal with shallow depth of field, you want your lens to be wide open in regards to shallow depth of field. So what does that mean? What does that mean in regards to aperture? How can we make our lens wide open? Let's see how good you guys are. Yes, you want it to be on the lower end of the spectrum. So that means you want it to be a 1.2, 1.4, or a 1.8. So have I confused you yet? Hopefully I haven't. If I have, just kind of reverse this video a little bit and go over it again. Next in the triangle is shutter speed. And with shutter speed, what it means is it's how fast or how slow you allow the shutter to be open in order for light to come in and hit the sensor. This is really what you want to concentrate on in regards to shooting objects that are moving and in movement. This is where shutter speed is really, really, really important. So with shutter speed, it ranges from 30 all the way up to 2000. Shutter speed has to do simply with fractions. Primarily, there's a 1 on top, and that 30 that I told you all the way up to 2000 is the denominator. So the more movement you have of an object, of a scene, the higher you want your shutter speed to be. Therefore, the higher the denominator you want it to be. So you want it, 125, 250, all that good stuff on up. Now, if there's less movement like me, you want it 130, 130th of a second, 140, 150. Alright, are you guys still with me? Because we're on the last part and this is actually the easiest. This is the setting that you want to set first before you tackle aperture and shutter speed. And this is ISO. Don't ask me what it stands for. I should know this. You can Google it, Wikipedia. Actually, let me have it appear on the screen right now. This is the abbreviation of ISO. And ISO is actually the light sensitivity to your camera's sensor. And the range for ISO is 100 to 6400. Now the general rule of thumb is that no matter what, whether you're shooting inside or outside, you do not want your ISO to go above 400. The reason being is anything above 400 allows for what you call noise grain. And basically, if you want to go above 400, that's in situations where it's nighttime, where it's really dark, and it's kind of like the, what's that horror movie? It's so bad. The Blair Witch Project, right? You saw a lot of noise. It's shot mostly at night. I guarantee you the ISO was on the upper end of like a 6400 or different things like that. As you can see on the screen right here, this is how you change it on the ISO. You simply press on the ISO button on a Canon and then rotate the dial to where you want it to be. So in general, just in case you guys want to know, if you're shooting outside, you want your ISO to be at 100, which is the lowest. But if you're inside, you can fool around between 100 and 400. So there you go. In regards to, as bloggers or YouTubers, we're going to be shooting all over the place, right? Like, I'm not going to always be inside shooting in my room. And even though I have my ISO at like a 400, 200 range, that's okay. But if I'm outside, I want it at the 100 range and then fool around with the shutter speed and aperture once I set my ISO. So there you have it. That is ISO, shutter speed, exposure, and aperture. Well, really, it's ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, and how it comprises of the triangle of exposure. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. If you guys have any questions or any comments or even better tips or ways to explain what I just tried to explain, please leave them in the comments down below. And of course, be sure to subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, share it with your friends and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And head on over to bothsidesofthecamera.com so you can get your free checklist on how to get started with video, specifically with your smartphone. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. That took some time. Hopefully I didn't confuse you guys too much with that. I mean, goodness gracious.
Look at me and be like, right?
Right. I'm recording video! I don't even know what's the word I want to tackle. Yeah, keep jamming to this music. Shout out to, oh gosh, I forgot this guy's name, but you'll see it on the screen right now because I love this music. Like, hopefully you guys like that because I'll be playing it more in the videos or using the main music of both sides of the camera. I'm talking too much. Let's stop the video.